Knowledge, teamwork and game smarts. These are the ingredients turning your everyday players into tomorrow's professional gamers. But to truly appreciate the future competitors of esports, we need to pay homage to the moments from the past. Arena Esports takes you on a trip back in time to enjoy the greatest plays from the world of esports. With adrenaline pumping and hearts pounding, the final two teams for the StarLadder ImbaTV Invitational Season 5 Grand Final approached the main stage. This was a classic standoff between North America and China, an end to a month-long Dota 2 tournament where only the most elite MOBA stars would prevail. Optic Gaming versus VGJ.Thunder. The teams took their seats and prepared themselves for the first draft of the final set. The first match was a story of VGJ's Terrorblade versus Optic's Shadow Fiend to carry out the mid lane duties, but with 3-3's Underlord getting caught out for first blood in the bottom lane. This was a rocky start for the North Americans. The squad, however, persevered, claiming what little victories they could to turn the match back in their favour. The Radiant's Tier 1 bottom tower was the first to fall as Optic continued to farm. The first real team fight of the game saw Freeze and Fade bite the dust. The North Americans were chasing the win as VGJ.Thunder felt the pressure. Position 2 player CCNC snapped up the first Aegis of the game at the 16.5-minute mark. A push of the Radiant side bottom lane was imminent as VGJ.Thunder panicked on the main stage. The Chinese team's position 1 player, StarLadder, had farmed gold extremely well leading into the mid-game, where his geared-up Terrorblade started creating problems for the Optic squad. In a fight for Roshan, VGJ.Thunder ninjaed the final blow, but it came at a great cost. 3 of their members fell to the ground as Optic stole the Aegis. Things went from bad to worse for the Chinese squad when they tried to assault the mid-lane high ground. Optic's defense was too great, and Freeze barely made it out alive. Despite being outplayed in both eliminations and gold lead, VGJ.Thunder flipped the switch on their opponents. With a weakened top lane and a strong swing into an 8k gold lead, VGJ took the first match of the series, showing no mercy to their NA rivals.
Разрушит сейчас главное строение в этой игре.
Ничего не сделать.
Да, ничего не сделать, никак их не остановить. Это ГГ, это 1-0 в пользу китайской команды.
Game 2 was a tale of fight initiation, as picks like Tusk, Razor and Faceless Void came out from the American superpower. A nail-biting first blood trade-off in the Radiant jungle was more than enough to get the crowd excited. The battle for the first bounty runes of the game ultimately went to Optic Gaming. At 5 eliminations aside, VGJ.Thunder swung the gold lead back in its favour with the fall of 3-3 in the mid lane. Freeze, Yang and StarLadder were ruthless in the top lane. Optic's Zai fell under the Tier 1 tower, while the pursuit for Pycat finally ended in the tree line. Optic were having a hard time. It was as though the Chinese team were everywhere at once. Their mistakes were brutally punished. VGJ.Thunder were miles ahead of their opponents.
Бьются очень неплохо, садятся, DDC падает, только Визаджа тоже это уже никак не спасет. Зай также отваливается.
Despite being so behind in almost every way, Optic Gaming fought back. This direct and precise attack of the high ground was the turning point in the second game, where Optic forced their opponents into submission to tie the scores. Wasting no time, the third game of the grand final was underway. The Chinese team sought revenge by locking in Lion and Earthshaker to dish out some serious stuns. Optic Gaming, however, looked to strengthen the mid lane, electing 3-3's Broodmother to create immense pressure on Freeze. 2 minutes went by and the plan was well executed. 3-3's web spread meant he controlled the mid lane against a helpless Puck. The members of Optic knew what had to be done. They found ways to catch out VGJ.Thunder's heroes, who strayed too far from safety, all while their position 1 player was farming efficiently in the jungle. Optic's early domination of the bottom and mid lane saw their Chinese adversaries lose the fight for the high ground. With all 5 Optic members alive and well, there was very little VGJ.Thunder could do to stop the looming threat.
Абсолютно беспомощны оказались VGJ.Thunder. На этой карте Optic превосходно сыграно. Отличный драфт, идеальное исполнение. Браво, Optic Gaming.
The North American players were now sitting 1 game away from the title of tournament champions. VGJ.Thunder had to make a comeback in the 4th game of the series. Freeze's Tiny would farm the safe lane alongside DDC's Disruptor, while mid lane Marvel's Sylar controlled his lane on Sniper. Before the horn had even sounded, Freeze fell to an early 4-man assault of the top lane. This was not the start the Chinese team needed. The early loss was recovered several times over. Optic Gaming were punished for frequently stepping out of position, enough to swing the gold lead back in VGJ.Thunder's favour. The North Americans were playing very aggressively, but it didn't always end as well as they hoped. VGJ.Thunder had more than doubled Optic Gaming's eliminations by the 15-minute mark. Despite the constant interruptions, Pycat was getting the farm he needed to bring his geared Phantom Lancer into the mid-game. Phantom Lancer was the most feared hero in the game by the 20-minute mark. There was very little VGJ.Thunder could do to eliminate the threat. Pycat was unstoppable. This god of the battlefield became more powerful with an Aegis from Roshan. And as the Optic Gaming squad began to push, there was no stopping the heavily geared Radiant 5-man force.
Сноубол от Зая. Превосходная игра от 4-ки Optic Gaming. И уже на базе Пайкат, уже под фонтаном практически Good Game, пишет Фриз. И Optic Gaming, новые чемпионы Invitational от StarLadder и I-League 5-го сезона.
The Honourable Optic Gaming became StarLadder Invitational Season 5 Dota 2 champions in front of a screaming Ukrainian crowd.
Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with the amazing eSport content from around the gaming globe. Only on Unbeaten Esports.